let's play this clip of Joe Biden.
Yes.
We played a clip yesterday of Joe Biden where he said, we got to follow the science about having the election in Wisconsin. And honestly, like it reminded me of when people would ask like a guy like Huckabee, like, do you believe in global climate change? Well, I'm not a scientist. I mean, there's no difference between saying we've got to follow the scientists and I'm not a scientist. It's just a way of avoiding the question. And Biden also said, well, we also got to listen to the courts, right? Because I'm going to, as the presumptive nominee, yesterday he wasn't officially the presumptive nominee, today he is. I'm going to just say it's up to the courts. Well, apparently that's not what he really believed. Here is an interview with Chris Cuomo and Joe Biden. Did this come from this morning or last night?
I think it was yesterday.
Last night. So this is after the election has happened. He has a different perspective on it.
Do you think you won in Wisconsin tonight? Ordinarily, I'd be hitting you over the head with all these exit polls and crosstabs and things that I know about people all the way down to what they like for lunch. We're not going to have anything until Monday. What's your gut?
No, we're not. Well, my gut is that we shouldn't have had the election in the first place. The in-person election. It should have been all mail ballots in. It should have been moved in the way that 5 other states have done it. It's the idea didn't have enough poll workers in over 100 and some polling places in Milwaukee.
There was not one piece of information that was new to him from 24 hours earlier when he answered that question. He didn't bring up courts. He didn't bring up scientists. He didn't bring up any of that. I mean, seriously?
This is the feckless leadership that is frustrating Democrats right now. I mean, our show, I do a monologue. I did it last night. It's going to be out, I think, tomorrow or today, where I run through the countless times the Democrats have been feckless on things that just should not be debated. Whether it's sending people to the polls in Florida or Arizona and saying, listen to your governors that are Republican. I mean, this is
nuts.
I mean, those were beyond feckless. That was just,
you're right.
I mean, it is disgusting and unacceptable to tell people to vote in these conditions. And 2 poll workers, I believe, I mean, this was a couple of weeks ago in Florida, got the virus. And I think it's not just, it's feckless, but it's also like the classic thing that, that honestly everybody, I mean, just loathes, which is, okay, Joe, you're going to advocate, basically. You're not going to step in. You're not going to call out this travesty, which was at the end forced through by the Roberts Supreme Court. Right. But then you're going to cover your ass a little bit the next day by saying, like, hey, we probably shouldn't.
Right.
The footage outside of Wisconsin, the footage of people in those lines desperately trying to maintain the distancing in the rain. I mean, this is the type of stuff, like, we are in a failed state right now.
And by the way, it's only because, I mean, the only reason why Tom Perez and Joe Biden, who are lockstep in their messaging, wanted to keep it was because there's the voter suppression aspect in Wisconsin. But it would have been so egregious for them to make the case. This is a case that they're making with Obama and his Eric Holder efforts. I mean, this is really about Eric Holder. At the end of the day, when you pull back the curtain, this is about Eric Holder and his efforts in Wisconsin, which are commendable, but really should have been taken care of, I don't know, by not losing all these state legislatures under the Obama administration. And that's why, Tom Perez finally made this decision and Joe Biden made this decision. But it took an extraordinary amount of political pressure from the inside to get them to this point. And that's what's feckless, is that they can't make a decision based on morals. They have to have communications and committee meetings behind the scenes to see, whether or not it's going to offend a donor or an industry or a lobbyist, or it's going to help one of their cronies.
Well, that's and I would even go for it. Like, forget, I mean, morals, yes, but like also, what kind of tin ear do you have? Yeah. Like, I just like, put aside morals for a moment. Right. What, how bad at this do you have to be to not know that, like, we knew a week ago they were going to do 5 polling places in Milwaukee where they normally have 180. How bad at this do you have to be to not know that if I don't come out against this today, tomorrow I'm going to have to be like, well, I was secretly against it. I mean,
but they rule by committee. That's ultimately what I'm saying is, unlike an Andrew Cuomo, who has the political instincts to make decisions on his own and listen to the ground and at least pretend to be progressive by labeling something, student loans for all or whatever the hell he does. They rule by committee. They have to go back and see, what does CAP say? What is, Barack Obama going to say? They really do have these conversations behind the scenes before they say, okay, fine.
I'm going to say, read this fantastic Andrew Sullivan piece.
I just want to say, Joe said it was his gut that told him. The thing that I know about overeating is your gut doesn't know until 30 minutes after it's full that it's full. So
that's right. Chew your food slowly.
All those PB&Js and Fig Newtons are really getting to
sort of reminds me. Let's look at this clip. I voted before I voted against it.
Let's look at this clip.
He doesn't remember saying that 2 days ago.
Let's look at this clip of Milwaukee voters who are lined up. This one is not even as disturbing because the rain is not pelting down on them. They're still in raincoats, but there are videos of and these things are going around the block. You had pictures. There's pictures of elderly folks who are literally like a half a mile away from the voting booth in line. Think about this: 180 polling places reduced down to 5 in Milwaukee. Here is Shaquille Brewster from MSNBC having a conversation with voters at Riverside High School in Milwaukee, lined up, and they're just about to get into the door. They've obviously been out there for hours.
I'm really concerned about the people and about our rights and the Republic.
People that can't even walk up to the polls and have to stand in line for 3 hours. Oh, come on, then.
Yeah, now it's important more than ever to vote blue because red has put us out here, stop the postponing of the voting. We have to make sure that voice is heard regardless of this pandemic. That's the situation we're in.
Why not vote absentee? That's going to be a question I get. Why did you not?
I tried to vote absentee, requested my ballot on the 14th, and never received it.
Wow. Same with you? You requested ballots on March 14th?
I did.
They said they put my wrong name on here.
Oh, okay, so you got an absentee ballot.
Yeah, but the name is wrong.
I never got mine.
I'm a senior. They put junior down here.
If there's one thing you want people to know who are watching this, what's your message to them?
Vote. Vote. Vote.
Well, we're strong.
And tell my son to vote.
Yeah.
Say that again?
We're strong. We'll get through this. There's hardship, but it's important to make your voice heard. You might feel like one person, but collectively, we're all out here.
All together. We're all
helping each other. It's going to be okay.
Just to put a cap on this, the idea that the Republicans and man, in Wisconsin, just a reminder, this came up with John Nichols yesterday. Democrats won 54% of the vote. 54% of the votes cast were for Democrats in the last election for the state legislature. Mm-hmm. Yet, because of gerrymandering, Republicans still control that 66 to 34. Yeah. So in a statewide election, come November, if there's actual voting, Republicans may have a problem there, but they're not going to have it in these, Democrats would have to get like 70% of the vote to take over that state legislature. I mean, it's almost an impossibility. It's almost locked in. That's why on Monday, the results of this Supreme Court election in Wisconsin are going to be so huge. Now, the court is not in balance, but it's going to make an issue. But here is the Wisconsin Assembly Speaker, who is sent out to try, I guess, to do damage control about how safe it is to vote and how it's not a big deal that Republicans, remember now, Evers, he was late to pull the trigger, but he basically said, I'm shutting down the, I want, and he doesn't have the same power that you would have if you were Scott Walker. They stripped him of a lot of power, but he went in, he said, I want to propose legislation that we punt the election. Republicans kept in session for 17 minutes and then they ended it. Didn't happen. Then he ordered the election changed. It was overturned by the courts, by the state Supreme Court. And then the extension on absentee ballots, which would have helped some of those people theoretically in line, was also nixed by the federal Supreme Court. Here is Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Voss from Racine County out explaining to people why it's perfectly safe. Take a good look at this and see if you see any cues that might suggest that it's not perfectly safe to go out and vote.
What do you have to say for some of the voters who are concerned about being disenfranchised because they requested the ballot as of Friday but still haven't gotten it and they're afraid to leave their houses?
Well, the best thing about it is, number one, you have the ability to request from your clerk an email ballot. You can fill it out and send it back in. That's what the Elections Board decided yesterday, the Wisconsin Elections Commission. So that's one option for folks. The other one is you can come to a polling place and do it safely. You have the ability to do curbside voting just like they're doing here, even if it's in a different municipality without drive-up voting. You can request that the person come out. They'll deliver you a ballot. They'll check your ID. You are incredibly safe to go out. So I think that's why people have to use their own best judgment. They have to make sure that if they're compromised in any way or worry about the safety of their family, that they do it really smartly. But I look at what's happening here today, and it really makes me proud that the people who run our elections are doing it professionally, but they're also doing it in a way that makes people as safe as they possibly can be, just as safe as they would be when they go out of their house to get groceries or anything else that they need to live their daily lives.
This mother effer is in a hazmat suit. And I will tell you this, they don't have drive-up ballots in Milwaukee.
Right.
They have it in the suburbs where they know that their voters are. And this guy is dressed as if he's about to perform, brain surgery. He's got so much protective gear on that's not available to the public. And frankly, it's highly irresponsible that you wasted that gear on that MF as opposed to somebody who needs it, who's actually going in and dealing with patients. But are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is driving me to vape. I'm sorry to be vaping on the stream, but this guy leaves me no choice.
PSA. They just released some sort of statistics on vaping. Just as a side note, it affects your lungs, and they're seeing that a lot of people who are young that are being hit by this, they're attributing some of it to the vaping. So just PSA, cut down on vaping, guys.
My mom definitely told me that already. And I was like,
perfectly safe. Perfectly safe. Don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing. It's perfectly safe.
Like, I know that it's not good for me.
Sam,
I'm not doing it because I think it's healthy. But
you know what? Have your lungs scarred, Jamie. We need you.
I'm a little stressed out right now. Might not be the best time to quit a thing.
Do what we're all doing. Eat.
But I am trying to cut down and eat more.
That is so disgusting.
Like, does this guy not realize what he's wearing?
He's wearing a fucking hazmat suit. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't swear for the stream, but that is wait,
we're not allowed to swear?
Terms like banality of evil need to make a comeback as actual terms that mean something.
This is a guy getting on a spaceship as Earth is burning, saying everything's fine. You'll be all right.
And contrast it with the people before who are a hell of a lot better than the leaders of their party, who are out saying like, oh, we need to do this and they're correct. The Roberts Court, John Roberts, great devotee of the law, not a partisan hack at all, not someone who's dedicated basically the entirety of his career, essentially just rolling back the Voting Rights Act and other major civil rights legislation. Yeah, no, he's great. And then we have this, the guy in a hazmat suit. Whatever. It's grotesque. It's every adjective I could throw at it. But I don't know. I guess it's puncturing through a certain, you just have an absorption level where you expect this stuff. You're not surprised by it. Of course. And then you see something like that, the literal visual of this guy saying, hey, no problem. Contrasted with those people. The whole time you're watching those people, you're thinking to myself, oh my God, make sure to not follow your natural impulses while you're chatting with other people. Keep your distance.
Right.
They're risking their lives to vote. to vote.
What's that book by Astra Taylor? Sorry. Democracy may not exist, but we'll miss it when it's gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely feeling that vibe right now. And
all right. I'm sorry. I just want to do this one last video before we go because I know